Is the Bible timeless art inspired by the Bible? In the last several videos, we've been looking at the Bible as to how it affected individuals that then went on to change the world. We've seen the Bible as it has become the story behind so many of the books, plays, and movies that we've come to love. Now in this last video, let's look at art that has been inspired by the Bible. Both the Old and the New Testament have been the inspiration for many artists over the centuries. Indeed, art became the vehicle to share the truths of the Bible with an uneducated population in the early centuries. I have picked 6 paintings that most of us have probably seen. Michelangelo Buonarroti, known to us as simply Michelangelo, was recognized as a brilliant artist by the age of 25 with 2 magnificent sculptures. The first is called La Pietà, meaning pity or compassion, and the second is the statue of David. As a result of this, Pope Julius II commissioned him in 1506 to paint the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. The 9 panels of his masterpiece each depict a scene from Genesis, with the creation of Adam at the very center. Michelangelo painted God in the very act of imparting spiritual life to man. Man had been fashioned from the earth, but he was to be in God's own image and therefore needed the life of God within himself. This panel of the ceiling illustrates Genesis 2:7 that says, "Then the Lord God formed a man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and the man became a living being." Michelangelo chose to show man as both body and spirit, which should prompt us to consider the complex relationship humanity has with the divine. Almost everyone has heard King David's beautiful Psalm 23 read at times of funerals or when comfort is needed. King David started as a shepherd, and hence the name of this painting, The Shepherd David. The shepherd David has saved the innocent lamb from the mouth of the lion, but then in his humility, with eyes turned to God, it's like he's saying to us, "Yes, I am the shepherd of this lamb, but the Lord is my shepherd, and I shall not want." This painting, called Christ of St. John of the Cross, was painted by Salvador Dali, born in 1904 near Barcelona. His inspiration comes from a drawing done by a Carmelite monk known as St. John of the Cross. Salvador Dali, the surrealist, paints Jesus transcending his suffering by being suspended between heaven and earth and looking down upon the earth, which was his place of great trial. At the same time, Dali, the realist, paints at eye level the harbor scene where he lives. Thus, Dali leaves us as the viewers also suspended between heaven and earth, so we can consider the divine as well as the human message of the cross. Dutch artist Johannes Vermeer painted Christ in the house of Martha and Mary. This is from the Gospel of Luke, and it's the story of when Jesus came to visit his friends, Mary and Martha and Lazarus. If you've read the story, you'll remember that Mary sat at Jesus' feet to learn from him. Meanwhile, Martha was preoccupied with serving Jesus, and that created tension within her as she blurts out, "Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to serve alone?" Jesus is shown talking with Martha, but pointing to Mary, and he makes it clear that today, while he is with them, Mary is doing the one thing needful, listening to him. But it's not really Martha's serving that Jesus corrects. It's her worry and anxiety while doing it. Luke 10:41 records Jesus as saying this, "Martha, Martha, you are worried and upset about so many things." Vermeer has painted a tension that spans the generations as we consider when to work and when to rest, when we need to be busy and when we need to focus on relationship. In an earlier video, I talked about the Last Supper, one of the most widely recognized paintings in the world. It's actually a mural painted by Leonardo da Vinci in the course of 3 years. He was commissioned to do this mural in 1495 in the dining hall of a monastery called Santa Maria del Grassi in Milan, Italy. The monks ate their simple meals along with Jesus and his disciples at what was to be called the Last Supper. Most scholars agree that this mural captures the moment when Jesus tells his disciples that one of them will betray him. We see a vision of humanity in all its messiness as the disciples react to this news. Yet Jesus, in the center of it all, is at perfect peace and rest. The final painting we'll look at is called The Disciples Peter and John Running to the Sepulchre on the Morning of the Resurrection. It was painted in 1898 by Eugene Burnand from Switzerland. It hangs today in the Musée d'Orsay in Paris, France. It's taken from the biblical account in John 20, where Mary Magdalene has arrived at Jesus' tomb early on Sunday morning, only to find the stone removed and the tomb empty. Alarmed, she ran to where the disciples were hiding to tell them this news. Peter and John immediately ran to the tomb. Burnand captures 2 ordinary-looking men bound together in their love for Jesus, who had changed their lives. The intensity on their faces is palpable. Peter is wide-eyed and focused straight ahead. John's face is a mixture of sorrow and anxiety, working down to his hands, which he wrings together. Could it be that what Jesus said was true? Could it be that he rose again from the dead and that he was now alive? Burnand captures their perplexity as well as their hope. These are only 6 well-known paintings of thousands that were influenced by the events of the Bible and capture the importance of God's relationships with man. As we come to the end of this section, Is the Bible Timeless? We have to conclude that it is. Since the Bible's early days, it has affected men and women who in turn affected their generation. And so it goes down to our own generation. To sum up these videos, we have to say that the Bible has proven true as a record of origins and an accounting of history. It's shown itself to be trustworthy in what God has said and promised. And finally, it has proven timeless, speaking to men and women around the world and in every generation.